My name is Beth Hoinaki. I'm the owner-operator of Goodfoot Farm. We are a Demeter certified biodynamic and Oregon Tilth certified organic veggie and fruit farm. We primarily sell our products to folks at the farmers market and through a community supported agriculture program, and a little bit to restaurants. One of the basic tenets of biodynamic systems is that we should be emulating a natural system as much as possible. And if you look at systems in nature, they are typically in balance, or they will find a balance in how all the different organisms in that are working. And so in farming, we try to keep a balance among different populations of insects, for example, or of pests. We also have a lot of native flowering plants on the farm. We try to support or plant plants that will then bloom kind of continuously year-round. So, we'll have, for example, Indian plum blooming in early spring to help feed the pollinators, so that when our tree fruit orchard is blooming, we have native pollinators present that can actually work the farm for us. Same thing in the blueberries. Oftentimes our crops are blooming when it's really cold and wet in the spring, when the honeybees wouldn't necessarily be out. So we really depend on the native pollinators to do that pollination work for us. So having all those blooming plants everywhere on the farm really helps make a difference. For Demeter biodynamic certification, we're actually required to set aside 10% of our land base as a biodiversity reserve. And biodynamic farmers are encouraged to generate biodiversity reserves on their land. You can see this is the edge of our deer fence. So this is essentially a wildlife corridor. So even though the majority of the property is fenced off for deer because they're one of our primary crop predators, that we wanted to maintain at least some part of the property as a corridor for animals to move through. One of the tenets of biodynamic agriculture is the integration of animals into food production. And so we have a lot of animals on the farm. Horses, sheep, geese, chickens would be our farm animals. We raise a couple of pigs every year, as well as the cats and dogs. We utilize chickens as little sanitation workers. They rotate through our perennial plants like the blueberries and the tree fruit orchard. And they take care of pests, insect pests that eat our fruit. They take care of potential disease-causing organisms, pathogens like fungi that survive in, for example, fallen berries on the ground. So the chickens will come along and eat all those berries and reduce any disease potential. They also cultivate. Chickens love to scratch. It's in their nature. So we put them out in the blueberries and they scratch around underneath the plants, and that helps weed the plants, basically. And then they're also out there pooping. So they're manuring the plants for us, putting the fertilizer right where we need it. So in those ways, managing the animals, we reduce our dependence on these other inputs that we would potentially have to bring from off the farm. We also have 5 sheep that we rotate around the farm that mow the grass for us. Hi guys! Hello there. So these guys, their job is to eat the grass and eat the apples that fall on the ground, which might harbor insects or disease pathogens. You just want to be scratched. There's organic, there's been natural. Sustainable was the catchphrase for a long time, like sustainable agriculture, which may or may not be organic. And the new term now is regenerative agriculture. The idea being that sustainable is not enough, right? I mean, the world, our natural systems on the planet, just sustaining them will not be enough to ensure the future of our planet. We actually have to improve upon our natural resources in order to sustain the earth as such. And so now the idea is, can we regenerate soil? Can we actually build soil? Can we do things to kind of help that process? Can we regenerate clean water systems? Can we regenerate clean air? Can we regenerate these natural systems that we depend on, and how do our practices do that? And that's where, biodynamics, I think, is leading the way. Biodynamic agriculture is a holistic method of agriculture. I guess I found out about biodynamics back when I was working in certification. I used to work as an inspector and a reviewer for Stellar Certification Services and Demeter Association. And I had started organic farming at the time, although I did have some background in it. And when I went to visit biodynamic farms as an inspector, it was, they were the most beautiful farms I'd ever been on. So I was impressed by that, and as I was developing my farm system at the time, it just made sense to me to integrate those aspects of growing food into our farm. So yes, I feel for the most part that biodynamics has basically just kind of pulled me along on my path, and I don't know that I could do it any other way. Biodynamic farming is what would be called spiritual agriculture. And the idea there is that, the spirit of the farmer is integrated into the farming practice. This goes back to the idea that, to a teaching of Rudolf Steiner, that essentially you have spirit within the natural world, you have spirit and you have matter. And within our natural world, you don't have one without the other. And the idea there is there should be balance between the spirit and the matter. The idea in biodynamics is that the act of farming itself is a spiritual act.
It was Simone Weil who said something to the effect that, attention is, the most generous act that you can engage in, basically. It's an act of generosity. And farming has taught me, I think, to pay attention.